Welcome, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com with the recap of the Army-East Carolina game. Today, your Black Knights defeated the East Carolina Pirates 45 to 28 for their first victory ever over East Carolina. It was a pretty dominant win. Fourth quarter was ugly, like we all know that. But you know what's great about it? It gives Coach Monken and Coach Woody something to work on with the defense and something to coach these kids on about making sure they finish and making sure they play all 60 minutes. But 45 to 28 win over probably the best team they've played all year. East Carolina wasn't great. I'm not saying they're world beaters, but they were certainly better than what Army had been going up against. So to get a 45-28 win is huge. Um, you know, quick recap. I mean, Army goes up 24-0 at halftime, then scores on the first drive of the third quarter to go up 31-0. The game was completely out of reach at that point. East Carolina tried to make it interesting in the fourth quarter, but it never really got close. Army came out, threw the ball a lot, ran QB follow and power a lot. Did not, from what I could see, did not run an option play the entire first half. They did run a little more midline in the second half with Kanye Udo and Bryson Daly. They ran a little more QB follow, but the whole first half, no option. And the reason for that, for those of you who don't know, Mike Houston, the head coach at East Carolina, coached at the Citadel, Kennesaw State. Their defensive coordinator coach, or I'm sorry, the DC coached at Kennesaw State. So they're familiar with the option. So similar to like an academy game, like maybe what we might see against Air Force or what we've seen against Navy in the past. Cody Worley made the decision to not run option, but to get the ball on the perimeter and open up the defense, take the top off with the passing game. First play of the game, play action pass to Casey Reynolds. Big completion from Bryson Daly right down the middle. Finish that drive off with a touchdown pass to Miles Stewart to make it 7-0. ECU gets the ball back after they went 3-and-out on their first possession. Second possession, I believe they got one first down, and then they went 3-and-out. A lot of 3-and-outs in the first half. The defense was playing great in the first half. Kind of a mixed bag in the second half, but they played great in the first half. Against a talented, fast offense, fast receivers, decent quarterback who was extremely inaccurate in the first half. Mike Houston made the decision to go with Caton Hauser instead of with Jake Garcia, based on the amount of turnovers Garcia had committed through his 12th interception. So Army gets another stop, completes a pass to Noah Short, gets some difficult yardage, and ends up getting held to a field goal on their second drive. So the touchdowns on first drive of the game continues. They're 7 for 7 for the year on that now. Second drive, they're now 6 for 7 on scores, but 5 for 7 on touchdowns. So they go up 10-0. Another 3-and-out by the defense. And then the offense, or I'm sorry, this was the one where ECU went for it on 4th and 1, deep in their own territory. They give Army a short field. And or no, it was another 3-and-out. Army goes down and scores on a Bryson Daly keeper. Noah Short has a really nice block on the perimeter, so they go up 17-0. Then was the series where now ECU is down 17-0. They're in desperation mode. Offense hasn't done anything. 4th and 1, they go for it. They get stuffed. Army gets a short field, I think, from like the 36. Bryson Daly, keeper, all the way to the end zone, 24-0. For all intents and purposes, the game was over at that point. But like I said, ECU made it interesting, late, sort of interesting, I guess you could say. I mean, Army was never in danger. It's the first time Army didn't beat the spread. Interestingly enough, the spread had been moving between 17 and 15 all week. And today, at the last minute, it went to 18. So a lot of people must have put money on Army to beat the spread. Army ends up winning by 17. Very thankful I'm not a betting man. That 2-point conversion that ECU had after their touchdown on 4th and 12 was what Scott Van Pelt would call a bad beat. So regardless, it was never really close. They got some good pressure on the quarterback all day. Eric Ford makes a great play on that 4th and 1, gets up in the air and bats the pass down, so they're not even able to complete it. Didn't get a sack, but I felt like they had good QB pressure most of the day, especially in the first half. They never rushed more than three or four guys. They played a lot of coverage, a lot of bend but don't break, which worked well for the first three quarters. And then they gave up a number of explosives in the fourth quarter, which again, I know is something Monken and Woody are going to work on. Let's see. So 24-0, second half, come out, first series, finally start running some option. 23-yard rocket toss to Tyrell Robinson back in the game. So that was great to see. And he definitely showed a little bit of his old wiggle and jiggle and speed. And he is wearing a knee brace, but he still showed some very good takeoff and breakaway speed. So that was nice to see. Um, Casey Reynolds had a big game. Made the first catch of the game, made a huge catch late in the game when Army's up 38-20 and really needs to make something happen on offense after they hadn't for most of the fourth quarter. And Daly completes a very nice play action over the middle to Casey Reynolds. Got to go back and watch the tape, but I think he was in double coverage, like at least in the zone. And went up, high pointed the ball, made a really nice catch, came down with it in the red zone. Bryson Daly scores on the next play. Bryson Daly in the red zone today was unstoppable. Didn't even get touched on most of the plays inside the five. Really, really strong play by the offensive line there on QB power. At a gun. Um, ECU really had no answer for it. So let's go through some stats. Um, I thought the blocking was pretty good all day. ECU was an athletic football team, and they knew what they were doing. The option wasn't going to surprise them. So Army limited running the option and ran a lot more traditional QB power, QB follow. It was definitely the Bryson Daly show. He tied the single game record for most rushing touchdowns in a game for Army with five. He threw for one as well. Trey Granati remained perfect on the season with a 32-yard field goal. What else? All his kickoffs were good, except one of them was out of bounds. Kick coverage team did a really nice job. ECU's kicker returner, Winston Wright, is a potential All-American back there, and he never got out past the 25-yard line. So great job by the kick coverage team. James Wagenseller had three punts. Two of them, one was great. It was 50 yards. Another one was good, caused the fumble. The third one was a shank off the right side of his foot. So something he'll want to clean up during the bye week. But all in all, good effort. Army goes to 7-0. Game was never really in danger. And for a team that played the run so well and played the option so well, Army still rushed for 295 yards, five rushing touchdowns, 45 points. If that's a bad day for this offense, I'll take that all day long, and I think most of you will as well. Stats, big thing was Army's time of possession, which we knew was going to be a huge advantage because East Carolina likes to go fast. Well, that's good if you've got Oregon's offense. They don't. So 37 minutes time of possession for Army, 22 for East Carolina. Army runs the ball for 295 yards. Like I said, held East Carolina to 87 yards rushing. Late in the game, East Carolina had to throw the ball really to stay in it. They changed their game plan at halftime offensively, which I felt was effective. They decided, you know what, we've got two really fast wideouts. Let's get the ball to them in space with some blockers in front on some bubble screens or some swing passes. And they were able to do that and do it pretty effectively. Army missed a bunch of tackles, had some bad fundamentals, which I know Monken will harp on during the bye week for sure. So that'll be great. ECU ended up throwing for 282 yards. Army threw for 147 yards, which I believe is their high of the season. Bryson Daly went 7 for 10. Threw the ball really accurately, really looked like a good quarterback. Threw the ball on the run a couple times. He really only threw one inaccurate pass. There was a high ball he threw to Liam Fortner on a second and long. It wasn't a really bad pass, but it was a little bit high. Liam mistimed his jump and couldn't come down with the catch. But for the most part, great job there. Justin Weaver on defense comes away with an interception early in the second quarter there to break up an East Carolina drive. So all in all, I mean, you know, was it a perfect game? No, but I don't really see what you want at this point, Army fans. 7-0, and they haven't had a close game all year. So now they roll into the bye week. Oh, let's go over some individual stats real quick first. Like I said, Bryson Daly, 7 for 10, 147, and a touchdown. Five rushing touchdowns on 31 carries for 171 yards. It was the Bryson Daly show all day. 5.5 yards a carry. Kanye had a really nice game as well. 19 carries for 102 yards. He had that nice 42-yard run where he was stopped just short of the goal line in the third quarter for 5.4 yards a carry. Talked about the T-Rob carry, and that was about it for the rushing game today, but looked pretty good overall. Casey Reynolds led the team in receiving, three catches for 85 yards, 23-yard average. Noah Short, two catches for 41 yards, including one where he went down low, made a nice catch. Bryson Daly put the ball in the only place you could really put it on that crossing route. If he throws it high, Noah's going to get creamed and probably drop the ball. So he throws it on a dime so Noah can stop short, catch it behind the D-back, behind the umpire, as Coach Munkin pointed out. So that was great. Miles Stewart with the big touchdown catch, first touchdown of his career for 13 yards to open the scoring for the game. Defensively, distribution of tackles was spread pretty widely again. Max DiDomenico led the team in tackles with 7, Casey Larkin with 5. The reason the safeties led the team in tackles, I don't think wasn't because the defense was doing such a bad job, but I think it was because East Carolina was forced to throw the ball so much. And then Thomas had 5 tackles. Brett Arena had 5 tackles. Caleb Fortner had 4 tackles. The other thing Monken pointed out on those last couple drives, they did have some backups in the game. Colin Madison got in the game. Josiah Banks got in the game. A lot of other backups that don't typically get a ton of playing time. Cole Seawright. So that was great to get those guys some game experience. So Army wins 45-28, 7-0. They're now 6-0 in the American. If they have 2 more games in the American left, they can finish those out. Obviously, they'll be in the conference championship. Even if they lose one of the two, depending on how everything else breaks out, they could still be in the conference championship. But obviously, if we're going to talk playoff and speculate around that, which is what we do here, they need to win both those games. But more importantly, Commander-in-Chief's play starts for Army in 2 weeks. They've got a bye this week before they host the Air Force Falcons. Air Force is 1-5 going into today. Not a good team. They've beaten an FCS team and lost to everybody else. It's kind of the reverse of last year when Air Force was undefeated and ranked. Huge favorite over Army, who came into the game 2-6 off a loss against UMass. Everybody thought Army was going to get smoked. Army comes out and wins 23-3. So trust me when I tell you Jeff Monken and the boys will not be taking the Air Force Falcons and Troy Calhoun lightly. They know what a tough game it is. Monken mentioned it a couple times in the presser today. He said that's going to be a dogfight. It's always a tough game. It's going to be tough to run the ball. Air Force knows how to stop the option regardless of how they've looked this year against everyone else. I think you're probably going to see a similar offensive game plan by Army to what you saw today. I think they're going to try and get the ball in the air, take the top off the Air Force defense a little bit, and open up the running game by doing that. I think you'll see a lot of Gunn. I think you'll see a lot of Kanye Udo. I think you'll see a lot of Bryson Daly. That was the game plan kind of last year, minus the passing, and it seemed to work pretty well. The passing will just add another dimension to our offensive game plan. Navy beat Air Force 34-7. I don't expect that lopsided of a score, but I wouldn't be surprised if Army doesn't put up 20. I could see them putting up 20 on this Air Force defense, which has been a little bit suspect, even though, again, they're defending the option. They know how to do it. So it'll probably be a closer game than the experts think, but we're pretty confident Army's going to take this one. Stay tuned. A lot of good content coming up over the next 2 weeks, obviously, with CIC play. Yours truly will be live at the Air Force game. Excited about that. First trip in the Mikey Stadium this year. We'll be there with Charles Grievous, and a lot of good stuff coming out over the next couple weeks. Army fans, once again, recap. Army wins today 45-28. Had to go with a little bit different game plan. Really didn't run the option. especially not in the first half. But Bryson Daly showed, one of the things the announcers on ESPN2 said, Mike Houston said, we're going to make Bryson Daly beat us. Well, he put the rest of the American Athletic Conference and the rest of Army's opponents on notice. You can come up with that game plan, and it's probably a pretty good game plan. But Bryson Daly is not just a power runner, he's a quarterback. And he put 45 points on the board, him and the rest of this Army offense. And good luck stopping this freight train. So, really excited. Army wins 45-28. Go Army, beat Air Force.